And I was just thinking, Amy or others who might have to leave early, toward the end, we have a slide on reviewing materials, in particular, a media plan and a draft comic strip. So if you miss that, I mean, it's on the, please, your comments will be welcome, even if you're unable to be with us at the time we discuss it.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is the sixth meeting of the Government Transition Advisory Committee's Voter and Candidate Education and Outreach Subcommittee. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd, and we'll be here from 4 to 5:30. My name is Julia Meyer. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Engagement and Community Participation Manager for the transition. Our co-chairs, Bill and Jane, will facilitate our meeting. Next slide, please. Before we get started, I'm just going to go over some meeting logistics. So this meeting is being live streamed on the very popular Office of Management and Finance YouTube channel. And a copy of the meeting recording will be posted online on the transition webpage under past meetings and events. For today's meeting, we have closed captioning available. You can access closed captioning by clicking on the CC button on the bottom of your screen. For committee members, if you can just take this moment to change your chat settings to everyone so that folks in attendance can view the chat. And please remember that the chat is part of the public meeting record. For community members who are listening in, we have the Zoom Q&A feature available. You can put questions or comments in the Q&A function. We may not answer everything live, but we do read them and they also become part of the meeting record, so we encourage it. At today's meeting, we're not taking verbal public comment, but you can give public comment at any time by calling 311, by emailing us at transition@portlandoregon.gov, or by going to the Transitions website and filling out a public comment form. If you do want to give verbal public comment to the Government Transition Advisory Committee, you can do so at our next meeting, which is 1 week from today, Tuesday, April 9th, and you can sign up right now on our website. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Bill to review the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Julia. And here's our meeting agenda. Of course, we'll first cover some subcommittee business. In particular, we'll review and approve the minutes of our past meeting. We'll also cover staff updates. Then next will be new public feedback that any of us have received with regard to ranked choice voting. And then our colleagues and staff will address subgrant outreach and updates. And we'll discuss an internship program. And then in material review, we'll look at your updates and descriptions, or make comments on the media plan and a draft comic book presentation about voting and our new way of voting. And then finally, next steps, and well, we might adjourn the meeting too, so we can all have dinner. So let's go to the next slide, please. And here is committee business. We have one excused absent, Fred. So thank you, Fred, for letting us know. And we also have a meeting summary, which was attached to one of Julia's prior emails. And could I entertain or encourage a motion to approve those minutes or edit them if you so desire?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. And that was Amy. Thank you, Amy. And do we have a second? Terry.
Do it.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, I think we can do a voice or a raised hand vote on this. Does that sound good, Julia? Good.
Yeah, thumbs or Zoom hands are fine.
Okay, good. So all those who approve? Okay, sounds good. And Jose, we'll welcome your son raising his hand too. So thank you. Okay, meetings, we'll consider the minutes approved. Now let's review our working agreements, which will begin on the next slide. And here are, important points for our working agreements: that in discussions, we challenge ideas rather than individuals, and we offer constructive suggestions. We also approach different opinions with curiosity and listen and seek to understand. And we keep the needs and concerns of the local community and the larger region at the forefront of our work. And as we are doing, please arrive on time, to the best of your ability. We understand conflicts can happen, and let us know, as you kindly have, if you're unable to attend a meeting. And we'll, as needed, we'll endeavor to provide, briefing or times for breathers. And during our meetings, let's keep multitasking to a minimum and keep focus on the objectives of the meetings. And, as Jane DeMarco and I, as co-chairs, will seek to note that, if you have additional topics, we'll look for them in chat and we'll incorporate them as well. Next slide, please. And just a few more working agreements. We honor the decisions of the group, and we contribute to the overall success of the group by finding ways to participate the best that meets your needs and our needs. So in some, step up and step back and collectively work to ensure that every member who wants to be heard is heard. We embrace conflict and work with our fellow committee members and staff to find ways to give each other feedback. And we'll use various feedback tools as helpful. And finally, we can use I statements, like I feel, etc. So thank you. So that sums up our working agreements. So, and now we are on staff updates. And I'm going to, if you bear with me, I just want to check. And I know good news is Sophia is a new mom or additional mom. But so we have additional staff with us. So may I turn attention over to one of our colleagues on staff.
Hi there,
Shoshana, good.
Hi, thank you so much for having us here. I am joined by, I think, Jennifer and James, and is Francisca here too? Yes, Francisca's here as well. So just wanted to let you know that, yes, Sophia is out on leave. And so we want to make sure that you're confident that we are doing the best planning we can do to take care of all of the work that is in Sophia's lane. So we are working really diligently to align the work that we have in terms of voter education, managing the contracts with our subcontract grantees, granting process with our staff members. So just so you know that our planning is underway, and we can give you probably a more detailed update after the close of this week, where we're doing a lot of just kind of aligning that work and making sure that we have enough resources to cover the work that's coming up. We also wanted to let you know that there's been a change of staff at United Way. Samantha Gladu has taken another position, and so United Way is in the process of hiring another project manager. And when we last heard, they were in the final stages of negotiation with a candidate. So when we know who that person is that's stepping into Samantha's work, we will absolutely communicate that with you as soon as possible. And with that, I think I'll transition this over to Jennifer Chang on our team. And Jennifer can lead the next part of the conversation. Thank you so much for having us. And if you have any questions about how we're going to be prioritizing work, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you.
Shoshana, I'm sorry, before we go to Jennifer, this is just updates that have happened since the last meeting. So we have sub-grant outreach and updates later on the agenda.
Yes.
So James, I don't know if you had anything from your team you wanted to share, but.
Only very briefly, we really appreciated the feedback we got on the website and whatnot last time. And so that is continuing. As you know, we won't do our hard launch on the website and start really pushing it until after the primary, but we took all of your feedback into account. That you can continue to, as a reminder, to send us feedback on things like the website. So don't feel like you've missed an opportunity. Anytime you want to go to the Portland Vote website and you see something that could make it better, please include that and send that to us. And those updates will continue to be made until we're ready to go. But yeah, I think that's the only, other than obviously the Sophia stuff, that's pretty big news. So congratulations to her and little baby William.
James, may I ask, the way you describe that, the web, am I perceiving the website might change from periodically week to week? Or so, yeah, I mean, if the answer is yes, that encourages us to look at it not just once and figure we're done. We should look at it to see how it's upgrading or changing.
That's a great question. So the base content will largely not change unless we find something, that's incorrect, obviously, things like that. So, the descriptions of RCV, the flow charts, the videos we have on there, the descriptions of the districts, things like that, that shouldn't change over time. What will change, though, is as we release new content. And so, for example, we've talked a lot about our mock election platform, the Ranked Vote RCV platform. Once we launch that, and that there'll be a new section added for people who go there to participate in that. So that'll add to the website. As certain events happen, the events page will get updated with those. So parts of the website will continue to change and be dynamic as we add to it. But we shouldn't really, once we've set, the FAQ we might add a question to the FAQ, but we really want to get the language set, and unless somebody identifies something wrong, we probably wouldn't change those portions.
Yeah.
Can I speak a little bit to the website? Sorry. Wow. Francisca Garvia. I'm going to be stepping in to help with some of Sophia's stuff, but also I've already been working on the website and things, and I've been receiving a lot of the comments compiled during the last meeting through the notes, and I actually watched the meeting and listened to it, and I wanted to clarify a few things about the website. I saw that there was a lot of questions of can we add more to the page summary? It's that little paragraph that shows up right next to the picture and the title. Some of the things are really limited, and another thing I want to point out is that we can't really change that middle part, but I'm still trying to find ways to both address some of the comments, for example, the stuff about events, and will we be adding important dates, when people need to register to vote by, or when the election is happening, stuff like that. We can find different ways to highlight that through the use of banners. I think Jose had a comment of well, if a button for translations is at the bottom, how can we put it to the top? We can't really do that, but we can be creative and use stuff like the notification banners. I'm also asking the central comms team at the city to add a notification. There's this one that goes out when there's an emergency or during city closures for holidays and stuff, and to make sure that on election day people can remember to vote and stuff like that. But yeah, I just sort of wanted to address some things that we might be limited. But yeah, just seconding a lot of what James has said. There are some pages that are getting little updates. For example, the districts page, I've added a new version of the district map because that was a community member request. So sometimes as people ask for things and they get made, or if we have like fact sheets, they can get added in there too. So I do encourage you to look at the website continuously and provide feedback.
Well, good. Francisca, James, Sophia, and Jennifer, thank you. And we welcome your comments, and also we welcome your advice or comments with regard to how we can best give feedback to you. We're very attentive to that. With our beginning of the staff updates, let's switch to our next slide. And this is for where it's time for our opportunity for all of us, if we've talked with others or had experiences, any new experiences since our last meeting with regard to feedback, attitudes toward ranked choice voting. Any observations that any of us have had? Yes, Amy.
I'm just going to post a link in the comments to something. I saw a local podcaster talking about planning to do an episode on ranked choice voting. And there's some commentary below his post online that just gives a little bit of stuff for us to take in, how people are reacting to the topic, what questions they have. And it might be an opportunity for us to offer a resource to the podcaster before he tapes it, in case that would be helpful. So I'll put that in the comments.
Thank you, Amy. Zach.
I'm curious if so I've been invited to more than one like ranked choice voting party, which I think is just hilariously fun. But one of them was specific to the proposed state measure, and to what extent the messaging is going to be different. Obviously, I imagine there's not multi-winner, so that's going to be different. But to help with the conversations and preparation for if there are very technical pieces, if it would be helpful for us in our voter education to know what is in that state proposed legislation.
Yeah, Zach, I don't know. Was the ranked choice voting party about the proposed legislation?
Yeah, I mean, that was the premise for it, was an advocating the state policy, but it's in Portland. So I'm like thinking, gosh, there's going to be people who I can also be talking about how Portland is going to run it, but I don't know what the differences might be in how voting, how the ballot, I mean, I assume the ballots are going to look relatively the same, but like the various small technical details that Portland has decided upon of how skipped votes are treated and that kind of thing, I'm guessing is not really discussed. It's probably silent in the legislation, but maybe if it has been spelled out, it would be maybe helpful to know.
James, do you have some information on this?
Well, I mean, I first want to say very clearly that, like, as the city elections office under the auditor's office, like, this is something that'll be on the ballot. So I don't have anything to say about the ballot measure itself or any of that, obviously. We'll be very clear on that. I would always encourage you all to go and read the legislation, or at least read some sort of summary as it relates to RCV. What I can say, just for what is in there and just factual things, it does not yet have, you're correct that the legislation is silent on that level of detail. Those are things that get spelled out, once at a later point. Other than that, many of the facts of what the legislation is proposing are similar and will create the same thing, including the opportunity for a local jurisdiction to do multi-winner if they so choose. That would be the same process that Portland has. But yeah, I encourage you all to read it, just to be familiar with it. I obviously don't have any opinion on what you all do as far as parties or spreading the word on it. But as we've said before, it is certainly something in voter education that we're very aware of and that we want to make clear to people, because there's going to be confusion about when they go to vote. This is the statewide, they're voting on whether it will happen, but it's already part of the city. It's going to be part of county in 2026. So I think that is something that I would encourage people to sort of kind of understand themselves, so they can be clear about what is on the ballot and what is in law now and what is being voted on, because that absolutely can be a part of this information as we go to just educate. We just want to educate voters on what has already been passed and what is already in law. You all can have your own conversations beyond that.
Yeah, thank you, James. I'm thinking, unless you or others do so before me, perhaps I'll try to find a link to the measure and then post the link in our email, or just distribute it to all of us, just so we have it and can be familiar with it, so it won't cause undue confusion. Thank you for raising that. I admit I was unaware, and it's good for us to know. Well, we can move to our next, unless I see a raised hand, we can move to our next topic, and look forward to Jane talking or moderating sub-grant outreach. Jane?
Well, thank you, Bill, and thanks to everybody for if you snuck away from work early, thank you for that. And if you're not going on your sunny walk, well, gosh, how nice of you to be here. Thanks, everyone. So we're going to talk about sub-grant outreach and updates, and normally we have the lovely Sophia to talk to that, but I understand, Jennifer, that you're going to pinch hit for Sophia today. Give us some update on the sub-grant outreach program.
Yes, thank you, Jane. Hi, everyone. Jennifer Chang, she, her pronouns. I had the pleasure of meeting you in prior meetings related to change management efforts, and I'm one of the staff helping to cover the broad range of work that Sophia had been covering or has been covering. So related to the sub-grant program, as many of you are aware, the grant program opportunity was released in March 4th. And then it is currently open through April 30th. And at that time, it'll close, and then there'll be a selection review and selection process. And so as part of the outreach for this opportunity, there has been really two main categories of outreach. One has been broad, citywide focused outreach, and one is more targeted outreach to community organizations and other entities that can help get the information out, and who might be prospective interested grantees to apply. So to talk first about the overall citywide outreach, that has occurred primarily since we're now 1 month into the time since the opportunity was released. And that includes a lot of different citywide channels, also networks through the city where we have relayed information out about the grant opportunity. This includes the transition newsletter that goes out to several thousand members of the public, through citywide email newsletter, through social media, and several other networks, including the neighborhood associations and different council offices and bureaus, and communications networks through 311 and others. So that is outreach that has already occurred and is continuing. And then to speak specifically around the targeted outreach, I know that the collaboration partners prior to the release had identified a list of over 60 different organizations, community organizations, in which we can be reaching out to notify them about the opportunity. and direct them to the website where they can find more information about it. And so the different collaboration members, including Sophia prior to her going to leave, and other partners within our network are reaching out to those different contacts from now through this month to notify them of this opportunity and see if they have questions, again, directing them to the website where they can apply and get more information. So, so that is kind of been a short summary of the outreach efforts, and glad to take any questions or hear any recommendations or suggestions on what we can be doing in addition, additional things we can be doing during this time.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. Nice pinch hitting there. Amy, a question you have.
Yeah, I'm curious, it sounds like, we've identified this list of 60 community organizations. We're encouraging them to apply. But what is our backup plan if we look at the applicants and we have a big gap of a certain community? How will we handle that and make sure that that gap of that community is covered?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that there's a pretty well thought through evaluation process and plan that is occurring in May, after the close of the application. And as part of that review process is being to see, taking a look and analysis around the applicants that are received, and both the number and the kind of the areas in which there's coverage and outreach to, and seeing whether or not there might be gaps. I think we have opportunity through that process to make recommendations and or to see how we might be able to address some of the areas that might be missing or not have coverage. Yeah, I'm not sure if, I don't know, James, do you have other thoughts to add?
Well, I think that's great. Totally agree with that. The only I would add is, so we have access to the applicants as there are already organizations that have applied and put in their application. So that's something we can continue to monitor now through, the last week of applications. And if we see that it's a very low number, or, one of the, I don't know, maybe they're all like, there's nobody, they're all from District 4, not a single organization outside District 4, then maybe we'll be like, all right, we need to do more widespread outreach. So we could sort of identify that based on that list as it goes. That said, as Jennifer said, we can evaluate once we have all the applicants and we're going through that process. But anybody who's ever been involved in a grant process, especially coming out of the government, knows that sometimes, we may end up with 13 good applicants and there's 14 grants. It's always a possibility. Obviously we're not going to give money to people who don't qualify and don't kind of fit what we're looking for. So just to manage those expectations, it is entirely possible that we, after going through the process, have applications that don't get filled. We don't expect that to happen. We're already seeing applications coming in, and I think they're going to be great proposals, and people seem to be very excited about this. But just there's nothing that holds us to putting out 14 grants, just because that's what the plan is, and we wouldn't want to give out money if we don't think there's 14 good applicants.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, James. Can you both remind us when the deadline is for the applications? I know it's sometime in May, and maybe you could help us understand a little bit how much time you've got to review that and do a little soft shoe shuffle to sort of make it all work the way you'd like it to work.
So the deadline for the applications is April 30th, 11:59 p.m. And they're electronic submissions, so it's all through the website. And then from then on, beginning at the start of May, it's a 3.5, I believe, week process. So it's a month of May, and there's several different steps around that review process we were referring to. So it gives us that time to be able to both review what has been submitted by the deadline and yeah, to evaluate those applications.
Thank you. That is great. And I'm just thinking, I think, Julia, we have a meeting towards the end of May, right? Another full subcommittee meeting. So maybe we could have Jennifer and James come and give us great news then. That'd be good. Thank you very much indeed. Does anybody else have any other questions for Jennifer and James on the sub-grant outreach? No, then I think that we can move on. Thank you so much for changing this slide, June. Okay, the internship program, I want to apply for this, but I think I might be a bit too old. I think James is going to speak to this. Thanks, James.
There's no age limit, so if you want to get enrolled, the only requirement is that you're enrolled currently in an academic institution. If you want to go do that and then apply.
I am already enrolled in an academic institution. Thank you.
There you go. Then you absolutely should apply. And so just to kind of give everybody an update, and as a refresher memories, so part of our voter education plan, we're going to bring in 2 summer interns. They're going to be college students in the Portland area in June, July, and August. We're going to bring in 2 of them. We've largely, with this program, mirrored the county's program, their county to college to county program, which has been very successful, in my opinion. And they will also have an intern that is voter education outreach specific. So those 3 interns together will probably be doing a lot of events and working in partnership. You know, we're going to send our interns over to the county to see what they do. They'll send theirs over to us, see what we do. And so that program is approved. It's moving forward, and we're very excited about it. On Monday, April 8th. Are we in April? We're in April. Monday, April 8th. So this coming Monday is when the application will go live. It will be from Monday through the 30th of April. We just like to end all of our applications on the 30th of April. So we will receive all applications directly for our program. We're also working with the county. The county is ahead of us there because they had the primary. They kind of have done all of this before us, and they just already had a program in place, so it was a little easier. Once they make their decision, they're also going to kind of forward on applicants to us. So that'll be a secondary resource of applicants for the program. And then we will review in May, we'll review the applications. We'll do an appointment in the auditor's office, but it will be co-managed by both the auditor's office and the transition team. So it'll be shared management of the program of the 2 interns, and then we expect to have an offer out to a couple of interns, sometime the 3rd-ish week of May, so that we have time to get everything in order, and they'll start. The tentative start date is that first week of June. We really want them in June, July, and August. There may be some shifting there as academic programs start and stop at different times, and we want to be a bit flexible for that, so we may start sooner or later than that. And then the biggest role, these interns will be focusing largely on voter education. So they will be doing some stuff in our office. They'll be doing some general election stuff, like helping us out with petition stuff, but the main focus will be voter education. They'll be shadowing the individuals on our team and the transition team in the county that do that voter education work. At various times, they'll be working with June with GTAC. So they will hopefully be able to attend some of your events and see what you all do. They'll be helping out, sort of with general GTAC stuff. And then they'll be tabling all of our events this summer along with, city staff. So that's going to be a big role that they're filling, and we're very excited about that. When the link becomes available, we have some information. This is not a final product for the sort of what we're putting out on social media. But once we have a final product and we have the link available for the internship, we'll forward that along in an email to all of you. So feel free to send that out to your networks. Like I said, the only requirement is that you do have to be enrolled. You have to have completed at least a year of study, and then you can't have been graduated for more than a year. So it could be somebody that just graduated in like May, and then they could do the program in the summer. But that is sort of the only restriction. Other than that, we highly encourage people to apply. Paid internship. I know it's an internship I would have died to have when I was in school, but hopefully we'll get lots of interested applicants. If you have any questions or are interested and have opinions about outreach for it, anything else we're doing, it'll be in the transition newsletter on the 12th of April, and after Monday we'll start doing our social media outreach. It'll show up on Handshake is like the LinkedIn for internships, so it'll be advertised on there and some other places.
Thank you, James. That's very, very exciting, and I'm sure we're all excited to meet these talented people when they come on board, and we'll do our best to get the word out to any folks that we know. Does anybody have any questions about our voter ed interns for James? If not, we could go to the next slide, I think. Thank you. And I think you're up, Bill. Except, Bill, we need you to unmute.
It might help. I didn't want to disturb you, Jane, so I put myself on mute. So perhaps I'll end that. And I was going to say we have two subjects for material review. One is a paid media plan, and the second is an educational comment. So let's look at the paid media plan first. And we can transition to the next slide. And I'm unsure on whom to call. I'm guessing Jennifer, but I might be wrong. It's Francisca. I saw a little active in your image, so perhaps it's you.
Yeah.
I'll actually start, Bill.
Oh, great, James. That's good.
The plan, and then I'm going to pass it to Francisca, because Francisca is doing the actual ads. You do not want me designing any graphical presentation of anything. So Francisca is doing some amazing work there, and I'll pass it off to her to talk about that. So you should have all received in your materials a sort of more detailed spreadsheet of what is here on this slide. So the part of the paid media plan that is already in place, and as just for context, this is just part of what the city is spending as its plan. This does not include the contract. It doesn't include Hearts and Minds, and they're doing their own paid media, which we'll know about later this month. And it doesn't include anything that the county or any other sort of jurisdiction is doing. This is just what the city auditor's office and transition team have put together as a plan. Mostly transition team, to be fair. So what's on here is the print media portion. That's the portion that's already been finalized and is in, you'll see the details in your plan. As you may recall from a voter ed plan, our general idea is to do 3 campaigns during the time that the city is going to be doing campaigning. So the first 2 weeks of June, the first 2 weeks of August, and the first 2 weeks of September. That'll be, we'll kind of, since we aren't spending millions of dollars, we're trying to kind of focus our money. The ads will generally be sending people to the Portland Votes website, and then that website at that time will be advertising for what, if we just launched the RCV platform, that's what will be on there and most current. After we do ours in September, that's when it's closer to the election, is we're leaving it more to Hearts and Minds. They'll be doing stuff throughout the summer, but leave it to them a little later. And then the county will be doing some stuff also later, closer to the election. But for us, we're just doing June through September, through the second week of September. So here's the publications for the print media. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer that. What is not shown here, we're still finalizing. We're also going to do some radio ads, and we're going to do some Spotify ads. The Spotify ads will run on Spotify. It'll be like a short video that we're talking about how we're going to make that work. But those also just need to be finalized, but we have sort of agreed that is something we'll add to this. So you'll hear some radio spots on OPB, and then working with like iHeartRadio and stuff to figure all that out. Those are all still being finalized. We don't have any words. We will follow up with emails to you, and then of course at our next, we can give you a staff update at the next meeting once those decisions have been finalized. But they will be added to this. So just so you don't think we're only doing print media, we're also adding on. They just haven't been finalized and invoiced. So if you have any questions on the paid media part, and then I can actually let's pass to Francisca first, because I think if it might answer some questions for her to talk to you about the details of the actual ads.
Yeah, and if June, you could go to the next slide. So this is a preview of some of the draft ad concepts. James mentioned print, but also a lot of these newspapers have a digital component. So for these, this is like what you'd see at the top of the Willamette Week or the Mercury or something like that. There are 3 concepts. So the first one is that Portland, are you ready to rank your vote? And it's that like person, you might recognize that picture from the website. And we've had a lot of success with just like people being depicted and trying to use some of that same imagery, so people just really get to recognize it. The second concept is the one below it, and it's more of that like you see the ballot and it's got more of those like graphics. And then the third concept just really adds on the rank your vote. It looks a little bit different, like a bar graph component. And the color palette is being used, we're using something that like the auditor's office already has. So those are some of the colors you might see. Can we go to the next slide? And so I think here you can see more of the differences. This is size more for social media. And so what I'm really collecting is feedback on just look and feel. And we've had some comments already, so some of these might be changing, but this is what we have so far. And then the last, the next slide is just when they're, again, if you're scrolling on a website, it's usually that sidebar ad. And there's also like a purple background, so you can kind of see what that might look like. There was some like good reaction to that one too. And then one thing that is good to note is that on the print ones, there's also going to be more of like a QR code. So I'm leaving all of the corners empty, so that way we can easily add that in there. Yeah, what are some comments, feedbacks? I also have these compiled in a PDF with some of like that context and comments that we've already heard. But
So
yeah.
Thank you, Francisca. So if am I correct that you're inviting questions now?
Yes.
Great. Okay, Destiny, please.
Thank you, Bill. I kind of put my question in the chat, but I'm wondering, like, for the paid media plan, if there's gonna be like other diverse linguistic popular radios added to that contract. I just did a Google. I don't know how accurate that is. But like, if it's gonna be all recordings or all print, I know we see the prints, but like, I'm wondering if that could be included as well. And it was a good list so far of the print ones for local media outreach.
Are you asking? Oops. Wait.
Yeah, if there's gonna be like a.
Wait, are you asking just for like Spanish speaking like newspapers, like for print, or are you asking about radio, just radio?
Anything, like it could be print and Spanish publications, it could be Spanish radios and other languages. There's like, I think the 7 major ones in Multnomah County. I don't know what like resources those are out there.
Yes, and so James, do you want to take it, or do you think I can also?
Yeah, I great question. 2 things first. So yes, absolutely, Spanish speaking radio is a part of our radio buy. We're talking to a few different El Rey Bustos to figure out like what is the best bang for our buck. We don't have a ton of money, so a bit of it is just kind of what can we get the most out of what we do spend on Spanish radio, but that absolutely will be part of the final package. And to that, our goal is kind of widespread and bang for the buck. So we absolutely, like, Spanish speaking is one of these. It's largest spoken language after English in the city. So we absolutely, it's part of our plan. But our goal, as you may recall, is more widespread voter education. So we are doing some of the focus stuff, the focus neighborhood stuff and cultural stuff within the larger plan, but we expect that Hearts and Minds Media their plan will be much more focused on on what you're talking about. And we should get their plan, like I said, later this month. And then we absolutely will make sure you all are updated on that. Because the contract, that's that big chunk of money we're spending. So we don't want to, we need to make sure we're hitting the wider spread, because that chunk of money, there's a lot more money being spent on that sort of thing. So that should be covered. When we know details, we'll let you know. But beyond that, yeah, like I don't know if Francisco wants to speak to these ads being in Spanish. I know that our website will be is currently being translated into Spanish, but I don't know if there's a plan for these specifically beyond what's already done.
Yeah, so my understanding is also the same, that Hearts and Minds will be leading that more like multilingual push. And yeah, on April 15th is when we're going to be meeting with them and just really discuss that and what they might take. And sort of like, I designed these materials so that they can easily adapt them too. And so if they decide, hey, we can actually really work with these files and just translate them and make sure that we make them more culturally specific, that works. Or if they want to use their own, that also works. So, but I also have, I know in one of the earlier meetings, there's also like a question about, well, what are we doing as a city to like educate people, like even on our own channels? And so more of those like educational ones, I usually translate them and make them bilingual. So we'll have a mix of that too.
Yeah. Thank you, Francisca, and thank you, Destiny. Juanita, your hand. Welcome to ask a question.
Thank you. Yes, I was just so these pictures that you are showing us now. This will be published in all of the newspapers and the list of newspapers that you indicated before in the other slide. My question is just these pictures, is it going to be included some regularly like small articles talking about answering maybe information about those announcements, like in terms of, well, okay, if people are not ready to rank their vote, what they can do? I mean, I can read that in the paper. Are you ready to rank your vote? But is there another piece of information that will be provided regarding, if you're not ready, this is where you can go, or this is where training will be provided, or this is where you can access more information. So I don't know if that can be included in the same piece, or is something that can be done through, attach small articles just to keep it in people's mind. Because if you just see that, it's like at the end of it, well, I don't know if I'm ready or not, because I don't know how difficult it will be, just in terms of the message.
Yeah, so usually when you do the ads, there's not like an article that goes with it, but we do have, the Oregonian will have like a sponsored article. And with that one, we have more leeway in which we can, lead with that like headline, are you ready to rank your vote? And then if not, here's like that article will respond to that question. In ads, usually you want to keep it smaller or like not have a lot of text. In fact, some of the like limitations in the things are just like they say to use as little text as possible. I'm hoping that the tagline like get ready and having like an arrow to the website that can help people sort of make that connection of like, hey, I'm not ready and here's where to go. On the digital ads, they'll be clickable. So you say, hey, I'm not ready, I'm going to learn more. And that'll take you to the website.
Yeah,
and then when you're on print, also putting that QR code. And I'm trying to see if I can also maybe try to add 311 onto there. It's the thing that makes it tough is just like, again, limited space on things. And one of the things that people have said is just like, usually the 311 number is just like too small. Like you see 311 and you're like, you don't really think like, oh, that's a number I need to call. So just trying to make sure that that information makes it through too.
Yes, yeah, and I think that if you're able to find just you don't have to do a lot of more than what is already there, but definitely like you mentioned, an arrow or something that calls their attention as to where they can go, where can they go? Because I really I didn't, you know, people I don't know, who are not familiar at all, and I think it's a lot of the population right now in Portland that they don't know what's going on with the new voting system. They will need answers, and the time is running out, and I think that the more specific the information is to targeting, are you ready and you're not, this is where you can go. Are you ready, you know, or you want more information, this is where you can go. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita. Jane.
Well, Francisca, I really like the colors and I like the ads.
Yes.
Nice work. Thank you so much. I want to give another plug for smaller newspapers and radio stations with a more diverse audience. And I know that Hearts and Minds are doing that, but the Asian Reporter is a fabulous newspaper, and they would get behind this wholeheartedly. And my experience with the Asian Reporter and a lot of these smaller newspapers is that you can save a whole bunch of money if you actually go meet with them. So if you've got money in the city budget and you've got money in the Hearts and Minds budget, in order to leverage that budget, you got to decide where you want to go and then go talk to the people and steal money from each bucket to get the best buy. The Scanner is a fabulous newspaper, as is the Portland Observer, and reaches a lot of our African-American, Caribbean-American colleagues and citizens. And those smaller newspapers that you listed originally are, I think, owned by 2 or 3 people, and you can do a communal buy, meaning you can buy for 3 of the smaller newspapers. But it takes a little work, and it means somebody has to actually go meet with somebody rather than try to do the buy on the line. And then, even though good editorial is not linked to advertising in these smaller newspapers and in radio stations, it often is, meaning the person who does the advertising will say, oh, yes, I'll do that, but let our editorial desk know. Give me your timelines of where you want things talked about. And then they will promise to kind of like cover it editorially too. So just if you don't have a fabulous media savvy person on your staff, don't let Hearts and Minds go do one thing and the city go do other thing. Try put them together to get the best buy for the buck. You know, people want to get this story out. They want the advertising and they want to get the story out. End of story. Thank you so much. I rambled on.
Jane, thank you. Good comments.
Yeah.
Zach, look forward to your observations.
I think James has a response.
Bill, if you could just give me 1 second.
Oh, please, James.
Just to jump in, I want to just clarify that this is only our paid media strategy and doesn't talk at all about our earned media strategy. So I think some of what you're talking about, Jane, like talking with the papers about editorials and what, you know, most of the papers in the Portland area, media groups in general in the Portland area, are interested in writing stories. And we are working on a plan that is earned media, and we are working with Oregonian and other organizations and papers, and from big to small. So that is a separate plan and will also happen. And I think that will help to answer a lot of what you're saying. But yeah, please, by all means, I mean, let us know if you think we're missing segments of the population. Even if we end up not having enough money left to add them in, it's information that we can pass on to Hearts and Minds. We're working very closely with them to make sure that we're, you know, it's a comprehensive outreach and not, you know, siloed. So please let us know if you think we're missing segments of the population here.
Thank you, James. Zach, please.
Thanks, Bill. I don't know if this is the wrong space to ask this, but I'm thinking about physical spaces in which we advertise or make this present. And so, like, county can be maybe a great partner for like libraries and things of that nature. But I want to make sure that we have budget to have those kind of physical pieces, like if it's a banner or I don't know. I mean, those things can get really expensive quick in size. But I don't know if this is the space to be talking about it. It came to mind as I was thinking about like billboards or where like Street Roots fortunately has the ability to like have physical presence. It's often the newspaper that I see around, and at spaces, communal spaces, as people are selling papers. But I would love to see things like this in other public spaces that are not just reserved to digital media or a paywall through a newspaper.
Thank you, Zach. Do we have any other raised hands or questions? May I comment? I appreciate, James, your observation. I think I heard the phrase earned media. I mean, it's not paid media, but I was going to ask a question about creating events so that publications want to report on it. It creates a buzz, but you addressed that. So yeah, thank you as well. And I think understanding you welcome ongoing comments, and we look forward. I'm just thinking out loud now. If as the development progresses and there are revised approaches or designs in which you'd like feedback, please notify us via email. As we'll discuss in the last meeting, our projected next subcommittee meeting won't be until the end of May. So if in April, May, there are additional feedback that would be helpful, please alert us. We could have a special meeting, but if you alert us via mail, we can look at it and give you feedback. So thank you. Well, let's look at our next material review, and this is our draft educational comic. So this will be very interesting to go over. So yeah. Now, before I go, Juanita, I see your hand raised. Is your hand? Did you have an additional question?
No, this is for the new for the educational comic.
Good. Yeah. Perhaps we allow James, Jennifer,
to do that. Yeah.
To comment first, and I apologize that I know Julia knows who's going to speak, but I apologize. I haven't absorbed that in my mind. So let me turn it over to the appropriate individual.
As the appropriate individual, thank you, Bill. It was a great
good, Mr. Appropriate.
It's just me a bunch because Sophia's not here, and Sophia does everything, as we have very quickly learned this week. So we're all just trying to fill the shoes that Sophia had 12 dozen shoes. Yes, so you may remember we talked about an educational comic. You may even recognize this a little bit because we went to the same creator that was used during the Charter Commission to sort of get information out there in general. So this is obviously similar style of art. We did that intentionally, so there's sort of this continuity. And we also really liked what they produced. So you should have this as well in your meeting materials. It's not different than what you see on the screen, but if you want to zoom in, it probably is a little easier to see if you are looking at it on your own materials. Largely, this is a mostly finished product, as you can tell, but we absolutely want feedback. If the purpose of this is to have one more sort of different kind of material than the other material we're producing that we can have at events, that we can have available on our website, that people can look at. And just one more way for people to learn about the information that is out there. This exists somewhere between the sort of overview information that we have and the heavily detailed. It's not meant to be you read this and you know everything you need to know about RCV, but obviously it's it's a 6-page comic. It's a little more detailed than we'd have in like a a 10 by 10 advertisement or something. So keeping that context in mind, we would just love for you to look through this and tell us, do you think this works really well? Do you love this sort of thing and you want to see more of it? Do you think this kind of missed the mark with you? Do you think if you see errors, obviously we want to know about that so we aren't putting anything wrong out there. We especially want to draw your attention to page 3. Page 3 is the sort of walkthrough of tabulation, as it were, for RCV. Obviously, this is done as a it's coffee cups and roses and trees and things. So it's all supposed to be a little high level and easier to digest for people. That said, it still needs to be technically accurate, and we don't want to be misleading. So please, if you feel like that page, especially if it feels like it isn't quite hitting the mark, or we could be more accurate or more precise, we would love to hear that. But yeah, in general, we'd love to open it up, and this will be translated. This is part of our budget already for the comic to be translated before we put it up on our website and make it available everywhere.
Thank you, James. Juanita.
Yeah,
please.
thank you. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, and I just want to say that I think it is a very nice piece. I really like it a lot. I think that it would be a good way to reach community. The only concern I have is a little bit with the way the ranking voting choices. It is presented. I think it's a little bit complicated. I don't know if there's a way to make it simpler. A little bit simpler. I think I saw someplace something different that explaining the voting, the ranking, the way you rank the people, and explaining in a very simple terms how the points of the person who gets the least votes is divided between the candidates. There's a lot of questions about that when we talk to the community about what happened to the person and how do you divide the points and the votes between the other people who had the most votes. So that's a little bit tricky, and I think that if it would be that's the only piece that I thought it could have some more work. Other than that, I think you already said that it's going to be translated. So, and I will say that it will be, I don't know how expensive it is to do something like this, but hopefully you can do it in a very economic way. So the more samples of it can be distributed in all of the levels in the city, the better.
Thank you, Juanita. Terry, please.
Yeah, since you mentioned panel number 3, it seemed that's the only one that sort of stood out as kind of not quite right. It seems like it's missing another panel to redistribute the votes of the tree that just got knocked out. Yeah. And because there is like that additional step. Yeah. And I don't know whether that was just his lack of space or it was one step too many to explain, but that to me was just didn't quite finish the job.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's great. Yeah, it's listed there in the text, but you're right. It doesn't have sort of a graphic representation of what happens to those votes. So yeah, I think that's a good point. We can go back and ask the creator, is there a way to make it a little more clear and maybe have that one more step or make it just more clear in the text that that's what's happening. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Terry. Destiny.
This is just more a stylistic choice. The lines with the seats, there's just something so harsh about that to me. Maybe it's waiting rooms, maybe it's like sitting for like something. It just, for me, an elected official position, like those seats does not communicate that with me. And I don't like that there's the like single winner 50% benchmark and then the multiple winners. If that could be like, you know, one position office and then, you know, 50% and then the multiple winners. Otherwise it might get confusing as well.
Thank you, Destiny. We welcome additional observations. And again, I'm thinking, James, this is ongoing. I mean, as we look at it, you'd welcome comments.
Yeah, well, this we do have a timeline that we have to get it back. We have to finalize it and have the material ready. So this is sort of a as soon as possible if you have feedback, because it's obviously already in the state it's in. So yeah, this is unlike some of our other material. You've got a longer time frame to feedback. If you have strong feelings about this, please, as soon as possible, send those comments to June or Julie or whoever, and then they can combine them all and send them on to us.
Good, thank you, James. If I don't see other raised hands, allow me to make a couple observations. Rather than get too close to the camera, I remember when I looked at this, I think somewhere one of the characters says, "Who shall I call?" And I know it's pedantic, but if I'm remembering correctly and not confusing it with another document, I think it should be whom. But that's very pedantic, so you know, if you ignore that one, if it applies, don't worry about that. I had a more general comment about page 5. To me, it sort of it sort of conveyed to me, well, golly, we get some of our colleagues on the council, and then we start asking for things that we haven't been able to get before. And I said to myself, well, isn't being on city council or being an elected official more than just asking for things? I mean, it's sort of, you know, it's looking at the overall government, you know, how to manage. I mean, now I'm using terms that would probably lull someone to sleep, but I mean, it's managing the functions, making them working efficiently, and you want to look at all the requests, not just your own, in order to figure out what the budget or the overall expenditure should be. And I didn't pick that up in that image. It sort of suggested to me, wow, we're going to go in there and, you know, get what we want. And I know that's part of being a representative, but there's also the overall picture. And I don't know how to adjust the image if one sought to adjust it. It's not inaccurate. I think I'm just saying it's part of the whole responsibility.
I get.
We have some additional raised hands. Jose, please.
First of all, nice work with all of this, of course. The one thing I'd want to say is, while I really appreciate all the explaining this does, some of the most important explaining I feel like is missing. For me, the most important thing that these should say is, make sure you bubble in like this and don't bubble in two people in the same line. And those are the kind of issues that people have the most questions about, like what's going to validate or invalidate my vote from what I've seen. And that's really what's going to affect them most. Like, if they know how it works is one thing, but just knowing how to vote, I think, is the most important part. And I don't feel like this goes into those as much as it should, or at all. Like, don't put two people on the same line or they won't count. Like, those to me seems more important, and it seems like that should be covered. To me, it's even more important than having people understand what goes on in the background, right? So, but that's just my opinion, I guess.
Thank you, Jose. James, on that on Jose's question, is there a limit to the number of pages you can have in this? I mean, I see 6 pages, so that's, yeah. I'm just, are you?
I mean, there's not like a technical limitation. There is obviously the larger it is, the more complex it is, the less useful it is as educational material. I mean, I think 6 is really already sort of an upper limit because you're getting people to pay attention for a single page. I guess I think it's a great point out of Jose, and I think the thing I would say is that not every piece of material that we produce is going to do everything. We've tried really hard to do the bite snack meal model. This is a weird piece because it sort of exists somewhere between bite and snack. Like it's intended to send people on for deeper information, but it does have more details here. So it's sort of, I do get the sense that it does more than some people want, but it doesn't do everything. And so there's going to be left unanswered questions. I think we're okay with that as long as after they read this, we see an increase of traffic to the places where those questions are being answered. Like that is our number one goal out of the entire media outreach plan, is get them to the place where those details are, and then they can dig into their heart's content. Feedback we get over and over again about a lot of our material that we're putting out there is that it's too detailed, that it has too much information, that it's just, people are just, it's not settling in because they're like, well, I'm not even going to spend time reading this. Unfortunately, not everybody is an elections nerd, and so not everybody is going to read in that. But I think it's good feedback in that what we are covering, we want to make sure that we have enough pieces of material that cover those really important things, that we're hitting whatever that threshold is. And I don't know what that sweet spot is, but hopefully we can find it over time and figure that out.
And just a quick follow-up, I agree with everything James said. I don't mean to add more to this. I'd actually would rather have a comic that's just one page on like, this is how you vote, and don't do these things, then do these things, because to me, that's like the most important thing when it comes to voting. And some people are not going to look at this and be like, oh, now I have to go dig in. Some people are going to look at this and be done. So I'd rather have them look at the one thing that to me is the most important thing, which is how to have their vote count. And I agree, especially with a great comment about sending this out to schools and school boards, is we should have a shorter one that's just like something that they need to know, right? This is your district and you'll vote for 3 people and vote like this, so it gets counted. And that's it, So, yeah.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Jose. Jane, please.
Well, thank you, James, because I was going to say the same thing, that the city is noted for words upon words upon words upon words. And I just wanted to compliment everybody on this very succinct and very fun comment. And I think it is an introduction, because most people have not been introduced. And I think it's fabulous. I really do think it's fabulous. And going back to Bill's comment about page 5, the thing about the parks, I've been working in schools, and when I asked the kids, so if you, I was out in District 1, and I said, so if you live in District 1 and you've got, 3 councillors, how do you think that you might interact with them and what you might say? And everybody mentioned parks. All the kids said, I would be talking to my counsellor about the need for tennis courts, or there's no paddleboard, there's no that whatever that pickleball court anywhere. So I think that parks is the thing that people love and know the most. So that makes the most sense. The next thing would be, stoplights and roundabouts and dangerous intersections. So I think it's very, 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 very cool. And cheers to you all. Nice going.
Thank you, Jane. Juanita.
Yeah, I think that Jane said everything I was going to say. Yeah, so I don't have to repeat it again. Yeah, and the only comment about the picture on page 5 is that, yeah, I understand that there's other populations like the business community and, everybody else, but I think that they're already involved in the business of the city because they have a lot of investment in the city, but not the regular people that live in the communities and the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Good observations. Do we have any additional observations? So good discussion, and thank you. Now we can move to the next slide and upcoming meetings.
I'm sorry.
Please, Juanita.
Yeah, just really quick. I just want to make sure that although we seem that we finished with that specific topic, but I want to go back to Jose's comment regarding the fact that we really need to make sure that maybe not to add additional pages, but use the two pieces where you're talking about the voting process and maybe make it simpler. And maybe ask, maybe Jose wants to give some ideas about what that needs to be done. But I really think that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita.
You're welcome.
Okay, for upcoming meetings, what we have is our next full GTAC meeting is April 9, so that's next week. And our district and council operations subcommittee meeting is the next one, is taking place in April 24. And our budget work group meeting is on May 3. And so keep these in mind. Now, when will our voter ed subcommittee meeting, our next one meeting, we're projecting it will be in late May. Julia sent out a poll, so please complete that so we can, we can find a time that works for most of us. Now, if one asks, well, why not until late May? Reason is that we're focused on voter ed and candidate outreach. A lot of the attention activity will be after the primary election in early May. And then also during May, we have some activities besides the May primary. Our tour of the elections building is scheduled for May 22, and we'll also have in May, still to the particular day or time to be determined, is a train the trainer workshop for how to provide ranked choice voting education, and that's being worked out. And that will be announced. So we're projecting at the end of May will be the next really constructive or good time for us. But I'm thinking that if any of us feel that we should have a special meeting beforehand, please ask and we'll work on that. Any comments on what I just said? All right. We'll go to the next slide. And this is all good discussion. Everyone participates. Thank you. It is really good. And thank you for tonight. And until our next meeting, I'll say we're adjourned. So again, thank you.
Bye-bye.